You know what time it is? It's time for another redneck rant. But before I get started, I have to first get in the proper location to do my rant. So now that I'm in my car, I'm ready to start my redneck rant. And today's rant is about the government shutdown. It is now officially the longest shutdown in U.S. history. Now, I have a problem with this, and I hope everybody does, whether if you're right-leaning, left-leaning, or in the center. I think our government is broken, and it's time to fire them all and start over again. And this is what I mean. Mike Johnson, the leader of the House, says that, hey, the House is not in session and hasn't been in session for over a month because they've done their job. They sent a bill to the Senate for them to approve, which the Senate is continually voting on and voting on and voting on without making any changes, without sitting down and talking across the aisle and trying to come up with a bill that is acceptable to both parties. But let's forget that a minute. Let's talk about the House being out for over a month. How would you like to be able to tell your boss, hey boss, I wrote a procedure and I sent it to you for signature, and I'm just waiting for your signature, but I'm not going to come to work till you sign it. Really? There's not other work that the House can be doing? How about this for an idea, Mike Johnson? How about you guys actually work on a balanced budget? Do you know the last time the United States had a balanced budget? It's 2001. That's 24 years ago. So for 24 years, the United States has not been running on a balanced budget. And this is not just a Republican thing, and it's not a Democrat thing. Although we'll say that Democrats do tend to spend a little bit more than Republicans spend. But neither party can spend money wisely. They overspend. Currently, the budget deficit is about 1.4 times the money that's brought in. What does that mean? Just think about this in your own economics. For every $100 you earn, you spend $140. How long is that feasible? Again, I say, our government's broken, and they need to put together a balanced budget. How about this for an idea? How about we pass a law that says if you're in the House or the Senate, and during your term, if you are not able to pass a balanced budget, or if the government goes over the budget, you are not allowed to run for re-election for at least one cycle. And if it happens 2 times, you are not allowed to ever run for government again, because obviously you suck at your job and you shouldn't be in government. Now, some people will tell you that there are benefits to a government shutdown. Now let's talk about what are those benefits. Some of the pros they will say is causes the government to look deeply at their financial spending and adjust it and spend more wisely. I wish that were true, but typically what we find is that they just borrow more money and spend more money. The second benefit is they say it helps them to find redundancies and reduce those redundancies. Again, with our overspending, I find this hard to believe that this actually occurs. If this was your own budget, then yes, I would fully agree that if you sat down and adjusted your budget and really needed to live by it because you were going broke, you would do so. Now let's talk about some of the negatives of the government shutting down. First is the economic damage, and we have seen a lot of economic damage. Another problem is a lot of key government services shut down. So we start seeing things like air traffic controllers are expected to work without pay. Well, guess what happens? If you can't make your mortgage, then you start calling out sick for work so you can go DoorDash or pick up another job so that you can make your mortgage payment or feed your family. Food stamps or SNAP benefits have been cut. Again, I do believe there's an issue with SNAP benefits that there needs to be tightening down. There are people who desperately need it, people who are unable to work, people who are disabled, but there is a lot of abuse in the system, and that needs to be corrected. But you can't shut the whole system down because of abuse. You need to fix the abuse instead of ignoring the problem and just shutting the whole system down. Another problem is it erodes public trust. In a recent poll, it was stated that over 50% of the people blame the Republicans for the government shutdown, and about 40% of the people blame the Democrats for the shutdown. And I think Trump even went online today and saying that the Democrats having huge wins in the recent election was due to the government shutdown. You know what? It probably was. People are tired of the BS when both sides of the aisle will not talk to each other, and they're looking for a change. Another problem with the government shutdown is it seriously hurts workforce morale. Now, again, I think there are a lot of redundancies in government service that needs to be corrected, but again, you don't shut the whole system down and ignore the redundancies and just fire people. And think about it. If you're an employee and you are a hard worker, and at any time the government just shuts down on a whim, you can't get paid, you can't make your house payment, you're struggling to feed your family, how much morale do you have when you do go back? Not only that, but think of our military personnel. Yes, they've covered their payments for last month, but going forward, they're saying there's no more money. So our military personnel who are working 24/7 may not receive a paycheck. Now, I do have a family member in the military, and I have told my son that I will cover him. And I've called his roommate and sent his roommate messages saying, don't worry about it. I'll help you too, because this is temporary, I hope. But unfortunately, not all of our military members have family members who can support them in financial needs like this. And lastly, shutting down the government can really affect national security. Again, think about those air traffic controllers that aren't getting paid and they have to figure out how to feed their family or make their mortgage payment. Well, what if you're security like TSA? You're more concerned about, again, how are you going to make your mortgage payment? How are you going to feed your family? How are you going to pay your bills? And you're going to be distracted when your attention should be on ensuring the security of the U.S. The bottom line is nobody benefits from a government shutdown. So I say this again, maybe it's time we clear out the government and start over and find politicians who are really worried about making America great again instead of lining their pockets and benefiting themselves. The worst issue we have is both the Republicans and the Democrats are more worried about how to get in power and maintain power and really could care less about what's best for the rest of us. Thank you for listening to my Redneck Rant.
If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the President of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together.
25 years and 50 years and 100 years from now, when the government is, when they talk about the government shutdown, they're going to be talking about the President of the United States. Who was the president at that time? Mm-hmm. They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was.
I mean, you just have a president that is not leading and not getting people into a room. You have to get people in a room and you have to just make deals for the good of the country.
The government shut down. They're blaming the president, folks. They're blaming the president.